everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to our next episode of ECC Essentials. Today we are talking about Canva. There's a lot we could talk about today, so I'm just going to go over a few quick things and then we'll dive in. First and foremost, I have to give a special shout out to Melissa Alterio, who suggested this as an idea for an ECC Essentials episode. And you guys resounded with a very loud yes that this was a topic you were interested in based on the number of people registered. So I'm excited to talk about it. I'm always excited to do these episodes, but especially today because of the overwhelming response we've received. I'm looking forward to this topic. I want to give a disclaimer. I am not paid by Canva. I have no affiliation with Canva. I am not by any means an expert in Canva or graphic design or anything like that. I have just been using it for about 5 years now and love pretty much everything about it. And so I'm excited to talk more and hopefully share some stuff with you guys that maybe you didn't know. For those of you who are watching who do have a pretty good knowledge, feel free to pop into the chat, share your ideas as well. Feel free to ask questions as we go through it. Again, there is a lot that we could talk about, so I'm going to try not to get too into the weeds as we go through, just so that way we can go over more of kind of the basics and the features. But again, don't hesitate to ask questions as we go through. So getting started. Canva, if you're not familiar, is a program that can be used to create all kinds of designs. I wanted to share to start out that it runs about between $13 to $15 a month for either individual or a small team. If you want to go with a paid version, there is a free version. You just have a lot of limitations as far as the graphics and photos and things you can use. I do use the pro version, the paid. It's extremely helpful, and I find it worth the cost as I use it for so many things, as you will see here just in a second. So I want to start with that information, get that out of the way. There is an option to apply. I believe it's under a nonprofit kind of umbrella, but always something to look into as a government entity or something similar to that to see if there is an option for you as well to either maybe get a discount or even get it for free. So we will go first, just in kind of different things that it can be used for. And then we will hop into the platform and look at some specifics. Please feel free to go into the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. If you're using Canva already, if you're not, if you haven't answered the poll question, please do. I'll be using that to kind of guide how much time I spend on different stuff. So that way I can kind of focus on the topic that most people are most interested in, and then cover other stuff as well, but hopefully have the most impact in the short amount of time. So what can Canva be used for? All the things. There are so many options. They are endless. This is just kind of a brief list off the top of my head. Presentation, social media graphics, public education, note-taking, training graphics, PDF documents, certificates, all the things. So before we get into the platform, I just wanted to provide a few examples and maybe some inspiration. Maybe you're using Canva already and you're just kind of not sure, like, what else could I use it for? So hopefully these might also be some inspiration as well. So these are things I just pulled together. That first one over here, as you can see, this is a sign that I actually made last year for Telecommunicator Week. And then I sent it over to Staples, got it printed as a poster, hung it up, and then it's actually just lived in our center ever since. So last year and this year, then during Dispatch Week, I actually put it on the door into Dispatch. And then the rest of the year, it lives on a wall. So you can use it for signage like that. Over here, you'll see some cards I made one year for Dispatch Week. The graphics and the text are something I made in Canva, printed it out, and then put it on the cards. So sometimes it's not your whole project, it's just a piece of it. We also do our certificates. If you attend our webinars, those are made in Canva. I am part of working on the Nebraska NINA APCO conference each year. And so this is just an example of what I created for our schedule, the PDF that people could look at. That was done in Canva. You can upload fonts. So if you do have fonts, we had a Alice in Wonderland theme, so they didn't necessarily have a font that went really well with that. So I was able to find one, upload it, and then use that for my graphics. Down here, if you were at Be the Difference this year, my mom actually sat in my session. And so this was a fun little Facebook graphic that I created based on her review of my session. If you have not seen this, and if you're wondering, no, I'm not inviting her back. And then up here, this is actually something that was really fun kind of to throw together. I was able to be a part of a panel for public safety for early childhood care providers. And so I created this in Canva. I just had kind of 3 things to remember for calling 911. And then I was able to print it out. Well, it's small, hard to see, but print it out. And then on the bottom, I actually ended up adding a place where they could put their local non-emergency number and name of their dispatch. So that way they could hang these up around their child care center, and whether it's in the home or more of a formal center. But it was just something easy to kind of put together with some information and then print out and get handed out to them. So those are just some ideas. Again, just hopefully maybe sort of inspiration or thoughts on maybe something you didn't even think about using Canva for. I could just do like an 8-hour course, guys. Like I just use it for everything. If you are on social media and you see anything that I've created, if you've seen a presentation, if you've seen a video, 9 times out of 10, it is probably something I've done in Canva, because I am just that in love with it. The other exciting thing is they actually just released about a month ago a whole slew of new features and different resources. And so now really too is the time to get into it, because there's so much it can do, even more than a couple months ago. Yes, Bridget, my mom is awesome, but we still love her. She's awesome like that with her review, but we love her. So getting out of this, as you can see, created this presentation in Canva. And I'm going to start over here with the home screen. So when you sign up, you get going, this is what it's going to look like for you. Kind of just your typical, home screen for any software. With your account, you can access your account if they have a notification feature, different information about the software itself. Kind of pretty standard, I would say. And then down here is where we get into all the designs. I will say this is actually just kind of a dummy account I created for today because my normal account is just full of stuff and I didn't want to overwhelm anyone. So you'll notice down here under recent designs, it's very blank. That's not an actual representation of my work, because my normal account is just an explosion of things. But then you can access things a couple different ways. Through one of these suggestions up here, you can search either things you've created or search Canva. They have just an infinite amount of templates and things to use for all the stuff we're going to talk about today. So looks like kind of all the things are pretty even. Mostly people are just looking for more information in general about Canva. So perfect. And I will try to watch the chat. So as we go through kind of more specific things, please let me know if you have any questions at all. Really quickly, just running through some other features that I really like. I actually have a team then. On the plans, you can have up to a certain amount of people on teams, is very handy. Whether you're doing conference planning for a state chapter or you're in the center, if you ever have multiple people who need to have access to the presentation, the graphic, whatever it is, Setting up a team makes it much easier instead of having to just email a lot of things back and forth. Canva is great because you can do almost like a Google Doc where you can share it with people. It'll email them a link and they can either view or comment or edit, and you can adjust the settings. But setting up a team, especially if it's people you're working with, routinely on these things, makes it even more efficient that way. You have your projects you've created, templates. Brand Hub is actually something new they've created, which works really well for us over at the Denise Amberly Foundation, and something that I've really started using. If you know me, I have a few different projects going on with the Dispatch Lab being encouraged with DALF. And so this feature is very helpful because I can actually set up the fonts I want to use, the logos that I'm going to use with those different brands and projects, and then any colors. So if you have brand colors, agency colors, whatever you want to call them, just your favorite colors, you can save them. So that way you don't have to always try to go back and find that color. And then brand templates, again, for the foundation, this is something that I've really fell in love with since they launched it. Those things, quotes that we're putting out, our flyers, the ECC Essential postings, I can make those all templates. So I don't have to recreate the wheel. The template's all there, and I can just keep revisiting and either edit the template, the original itself, or make a copy and then edit it and come out with kind of a new project that's built off that original template. I know this is kind of a fire hose, guys. So if you have any questions after we get done, if you get through it and you're like, okay, I'm actually just now catching up on the thing you said way back, feel free to also reach out to me. But we are going to get a little more specific and talk about then projects. So I'm going to start with presentations because it's just the easiest in this list right here. And so you click presentations, and this is the screen you will get once my computer catches up and it loads. So there's your page, just like you would in a PowerPoint or any other presentation software. You have your page that you can build. As I mentioned, Canva has templates for anything and everything. So just starting at the beginning, this design tab, you can put anything you want. So I even looked beforehand to see if they have just a template that actually talks about Canva a little more. If I wanted to put in here beliefs, it might give me something that talks about those. These are just templates, so you may not be as successful in finding one just because they're more general than when you're talking about photos or graphics. And yes, Annie, this will be sent as a recording, and then it'll also get uploaded to our YouTube channel as well. So you'll be able to rewatch and go back in to review things. So you can click a template. Some of them are set up to be videos. Some of them will tell you, this template has 20 slides that you can work with. I will say for me personally, when I'm doing a presentation, I probably spend 50% on the presentation and 50% on figuring out what template I want to start with and then adjust and tweak and make into my own. That's kind of the fun part for me. So you have your templates. Next, they have elements. These include, just as it says, align shapes, graphics, stickers, charts, all the things. I don't know how else to say it besides all the things. And they're always adding more. And you still have your search feature there as well. We are actually going to try to create a graphic. So I'm not going to get into detail as much as far as elements and stuff right now. But we'll talk a little bit more about those when we switch to talking about graphics. You can upload things. As you can see, I uploaded those pictures for the slide I showed you. They appear there. Also super helpful if there's a logo or something you use frequently. It lives there, easy to access. Your text, drawing features, projects, other apps. This could be a whole 8-hour class in and of itself. Because they've released so many things, audio, video stuff, just so many different options to play around with. If you need to create a QR code, you can do it right in Canva, which I think is super helpful. If you're creating like hiring poster and you just want to do a QR code to take people to your hiring page or a page to give them more information, you can make that QR code right in here and then put it on your document. They have other stuff where you can import your media from and those types of things. The other thing that I like, they do have text to image where you can type in and it'll create an image. But the other thing they just released that I'm fascinated by is they have this thing called Canva Assistant. And if you go into Canva Assistant, if you've heard of like AI, like the chat GPT that'll write stuff for you, that's what this Magic Write is. You can either, I believe, just type into that and it'll kind of spit you out something out, or you can have text that you've already written and put that in, and it will, maybe give you something that may or may not sound better, but it may just reword it, give you some ideas. I really like it for kind of inspiration purposes. So I don't necessarily take exactly what they give me back if I use a Magic Write. But if I'm trying to talk about something and I'm like, I don't know what to say, or I don't know how to say it without using the same word a bunch of times, I will put it in there, see what they give me. And then that usually is a good jump start for me to be like, okay, yes, I know what I'm going to say now. The other thing, this is crazy to me, guys, is their Magic Design for presentations. I am picky. I'm still going to be doing my own thing. But again, especially for inspiration purposes or a starting place, because if you're starting with Canva, starting to do these, it can be very overwhelming. But if you go to it, and if anybody's familiar with it already, has tried it, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. But if I just put in here 911 dispatch, I can spell it correctly, dispatch training, I hit enter. It will work its magic and it will put together PowerPoints on that topic and they will look nice. And I've done this with this topic and I'll be honest with you, they're actually not incorrect. They're not a lot of information. It's not something that I would just use kind of off the shelf, but it's a really good starting point. So if I'm like, oh, I really like this design down here, I click on that, create my presentation. It's going to load all those slides for me. And it will give you information and create that PowerPoint for you, which again, for some reason the text is overlapping here, but when you're reading it, it's not incorrect information, which is just crazy to me sometimes, that they actually get it pretty accurate. So definitely wanted to show you guys that. Because I would not use these off the shelf, but they are a good starting point. They put in the photos already that are most likely going to be relevant a lot of the times. So that way it's a little less overwhelming. We are going to shift gears into just kind of general graphics used for social media graphics. If anybody has any questions about presentations specifically, feel free to throw those in now, and either in the chat or the Q&A feature. And I will answer those too before we get too far into graphics. But to do that, I'm just going to go back out to my homepage. I'm going to decide what am I designing for. So I want to do an Instagram square. Is it a Facebook post? Maybe a landscape. There are Facebook. That's a square. Or you can go up here, do it that way, or you can click the create a design. However you want to access it. It's kind of like a CAD, right? There's a million ways to do one thing. Whatever's easiest for you. So I'm just going to go create Facebook post. Yes, Gina, I was super excited to try out. It's one of their new features. There's so many. Really quickly, when you go to that homepage, this bar right here, I don't know how long they're keeping it up, but if you haven't seen it or you haven't looked, this is where they actually list all those new things they've coming out. They did a present theme, so you just have to click on it and it'll reveal it. But they all live right there if you want to see exactly what those new features were. So then if I go back to my Facebook post, As some of you may know, we are launching a course catalog next month. So let's say I want to develop a Facebook post to tell you guys a little bit more about it. I can definitely use templates. I can go in here and say, type new course. It will give me some fantastic templates and things that I might want to use for that. I'm just going to click a simple one for right now. I had someone on Facebook ask, like more kind of like the design stuff, like about text and those kinds of things. I try to stick to, and I think the general rule is just 2 to 3 fonts in one project. And a lot of times, if you go into text, you can actually see they do a heading, a subheading, a body. So that's usually how I set mine up, is I'll use a text for the heading, a text for body. And then if I have a subheading, it may be a different font. It may be my heading font, just not bolded. But usually I just stick with 3. Jamie asked, how did you get to the magic design again? So if you are in the presentation, go back here. In the presentation, down here on the right is their little Canva assistant button. Then you have to be in a presentation to get to it here, but you just click that magic design and that'll take you there. So I've picked a template. It already has some text on it. Most likely I'm going to be changing that. But let's say, actually, I don't really love this photo. I would like something maybe a little different. So I can go into elements and I could just search online course. It's going to give me graphics and photos. I'm looking specifically for a photo. So I'll go into the photos. Like, yeah, this is actually the one I want to use. And one thing I like too about Canva is normally, if I can get it to do what I want it to do, but I can't because you guys are watching. If I were to drag this over, it'll usually attach itself to the background. I think because there's another layer in there, it's probably stopping it. Or I can just right click and hit that replace background and it will put that in there for me. I don't have to do anything else than that, which is kind of just one step that makes it easier. As you can see, now these colors may not be as easy and we're not going to get into the weeds as far as making sure it looks perfect on that end. But then I can edit the text, maybe instead of join today, I want to put in here that it's launching in May. And then it's really just a simple editing too. And just because I never want to assume everybody knows anything, if you are brand new, it's just like you would in PowerPoint. It went outside that box, no big deal. I can either just adjust the text size up here, or if I'm like, nope, I want it that size, I can just make my text box bigger. Well, the other things that makes it super easy too, for those of us who are like not Adobe inclined or wanting to take on the challenge of maybe something a little more technical, is they make it really easy to align things. So hopefully you can see those little pink lines pop up. So when I made that box bigger, it's not aligned anymore. I can just click and start dragging it and it will do those lines so I can then get it back aligned so it looks good. Like I mentioned, we'll go a little more into elements. So when you search, it can do on all, or you can choose graphics, videos, audio, charts. You can create the actual chart in Canva. One thing, if I start a new page, if I were wanting to do some type of graphic or even a presentation, and I wanted some similar feeling, different kind of graphics or icons, or they're all along the same theme, I found this one. It'll give you magic recommendations. So you can use similar ones. Or if you go up here, this is what I like to use, see more like this. And it will show you then either because they're like the design is similar or because they're the same kind of topic. So I put an online course and see more like this is giving me more with like people on a computer learning type things. So that's something I use a lot. I also look at what they use to describe it. And so sometimes too, then I can find graphics that are similar by using the same descriptive terms to just make it look all a little more cohesive instead of finding just different types of graphics. Or I may search, instead of just online course, I'm going to put an icon because I want it to be something more like just the lines, not quite like this where it's like a picture. I'm just looking for more of an icon style photo. So that's something, or graphic, I should say. So that's something I do a lot, is add that icon in there if I'm looking for something more along these lines. You can, similar to a PowerPoint, you can animate even on a graphic. You can download it from here. We are coming up on half an hour, so I just kind of gonna go through some final things. We definitely can do this again. Please let me know if it's something you guys are like, no, I need an even deeper dive. We've got to spend some more time on it, and we can see what we can do about that. But we've talked about very quickly creating graphics, a little bit about presentations and those types of things, a little bit about fonts. So let's say then you're like, okay, I've created it. Now what do I do with it? Canva also offers multiple ways to something different. Keely said, deep dive me. I got you, Keely. Yes, Angie, our ECC Essentials are only half an hour. So we're going quick today. But you can hit, excuse me, let me back up. This is where you can alter your title. So as you can see, what I typed in here, it pulled up to name this. So if you're a very organized person, which I pretend that I am, I might type this like Facebook course catalog posts. And then what I would do is I would like try to come back to this same file, if you will, and then keep all my posts in one thing, because my title says that's what it is. So sharing, yes, Marianne, she said, for Facebook posts, how would you download, share the post in a way that hyperlinks work on the post itself? That I don't actually use. I have shared from Canva for my Dispatch Lab page. I will set it up that way, but I haven't really done much work with links as far as that goes. You can, if you have a Facebook page set up, and I don't have any set up with this, so it's not going to let you, but you kind of saw when it briefly set up, you can put comments. So you could put a link within the comment that will post with the graphic. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. But that's the only way I've done like links with a post when I do straight to Facebook from Canva. So Canva does allow, if you use social media, just like it says here, schedule, that is something that you have to have the paid version for. It says, I researched a link thing in Facebook. It's a Facebook issue and they won't let image uploads include functioning links. That might be, yes. I'm going to go with that, Gina. You would know more than me on that then. So, Brian, I am sure there is probably a YouTuber has instructions on Canva. I would also probably say if you looked into Canva more, they have probably instructional. Like I said, I've been using it for 5 years. And I was just talking to somebody today, like I'm the type that's like, I don't need to watch videos. I can just learn this myself, which isn't the most efficient way to do it, but that's how I operate. So yeah, probably a Google search, YouTube search would take you to somebody who can walk you through a lot more of the specifics of that kind of thing. I almost guarantee that it's out there if it's not just in the Canva platform in like a resources section. So you can schedule straight to their Facebook view only link. Like I said, you can share with people similar to like a Google Doc, anything like that. You can set up, I'm part of a team with this account, so I can set it up to where it's only me, my team can see it. Anybody with the link, they don't even have to sign in, can see it. Also, if I wanted to share, I can, I believe, still edit it so they can only view or not. And then you can just download it. Also, just your basic download. They give you the different options depending on what you're working on. PDFs. for the graphic I created for the information about 911 for childcare providers. I just downloaded that. I actually believe as a PNG and put it in a Word document because I was doing half sheets. But so I wanted 2 on it. But if I was doing just one, I would download it as a PDF. You also, if you do animations, you can create GIFs, the SVGs, MP4 videos. Again, more recently, I've started using Canva for our ECC Essentials replays that we put on YouTube, for our webinar replays we put on YouTube. Any kind of clips we're using on our social media here lately are from Canva, as they've really gotten more robust in their video options. And if you guys want to keep plugging through for a couple more minutes, I'm happy to keep sharing a little bit. If you have to jump off, again, this will be recorded, so you can definitely come back and watch the rest of it. But there are a few more things I just want to cover because I think that they're helpful and want to make sure that you guys know about them if you don't, that are just kind of some of those basic tools that you can use. So you have your downloading options, and then just briefly, like it says, 2 pages. So if I only wanted to download that top one, I can do that. I can do all of them. If I was doing a PDF document, I would want to make sure I'm selecting all my pages within that. Again, share on social. You can print your design. I have not used this, so I can't tell you like cost-wise or what the company is that actually prints it, how that works. But you do have that option. And even if you're not going to print it, I have used Canva to do like t-shirt mock-ups like you kind of see here. So just another option to use it for as well. If you hit more, just all the things, and it's not just Facebook, you can share to other things. You can download. So if this were a PowerPoint or a presentation, that I wanted to actually put into PowerPoint, I can download it right here. Or I can put it straight into a Dropbox or a Google Drive, various other stuff. I will say, and this is just my personal experience, just want to put that disclaimer, in my personal experience, when I have downloaded it to PowerPoint, sometimes the fonts do not always like translate. Like PowerPoint doesn't have the same ones, especially if you're using like a really funky font. So it may appear when you first download it, but if you need to edit the text, sometimes it can cause the text to change if it hasn't already. Or when I've put it into PowerPoint, sometimes it gets kind of funky as far as how it's organized stuff. Like how I organized it in Canva on that page doesn't always show up the same in PowerPoint. I, for the most part, recently have been presenting straight from Canva. So that's something that may have very well have been fixed. Originally, for a long time, that PowerPoint option was in beta, if I remember correctly. So that may not happen anymore. I just say that too. If you are going to download it in PowerPoint, I would make sure that you just do a good kind of, it could be quick, but a good review of it to make sure everything kind of translated correctly, especially, again, if you're working with funky fonts or anything like that. Sometimes they don't appear the same way that they do in Canva. And really quickly, going back to presentations, the one thing I want to mention, because I found it recently, other people didn't know this, and I just kind of stumbled in it on accident. So if we're going back to our presentation that we had just created here quickly, you do have options as far as you could download it to a PowerPoint, or you can do it straight from Canva. And my internet apparently does not want to cooperate here. Bridget says, if you make a presentation for, say, teaching a class, do you convert it to PowerPoint or Keynote, do it online? Yes. So recently, I've just been doing it from Canva. Super easy. If you're questioning whether or not you're going to have a good internet connection, I would always say download it. And if you can do it from Canva, great. If not, have that copy back up. But the nice thing doing it straight from Canva is I can either present it like I did the one I started off with for this session. I have options. If you have multiple screens, you can do the different things. If you want to record it for something, you can do that present and record, or autoplay for a video and those types of things. Let me see. So again, this is what it looks like when you do it from Canva. Down here. I have not used the interactive Q&A with Canva Live feature, so I can't speak to that. You can open your presenter view, magic shortcuts, which I have not looked into, Zoom. You can hide this cursor. So as you can see, this blue, I could hide that, and then share remote control. This is something I've also used recently. You can share remote and actually do it from your phone. So you can turn your phone into your remote control. If you don't maybe have a clicker, or it's just easier for you to use your phone, you can use that as your remote as well. If you're utilizing live edits, and then start autoplay as well. Jessica said to create a clickable link in the text box, right click the word link, and type the URL there. I'm going with you, Jessica. And then as you can see, this one does come with animations. Best practice when we're talking about PowerPoints, don't get crazy. Like, it should be about the content. Don't get crazy with words. Nobody wants to read a whole slide of just text. It gets boring. That's the death by kind of PowerPoint that we always talk about. So all those rules still apply to make it engaging. The other thing, if you've seen me teach recently at a conference within the past year or so, I sometimes do a trivia at the beginning of my sessions. And how I set that up is I just do a slide with the question and then a slide with the answer. And then I'm able to go in here and I can actually set animations. So I set it to whatever I think is kind of a good amount for people to read it. And then I apply that to all pages. And so then when you hit that autoplay, that will then just do it through as almost kind of as if it were a video. So the trivia just plays through after so many seconds, it changes slides. They can see an answer. I don't have to stand up there prior to my session starting to click through and be showing those answers. So autoplay is great for that. And I know somebody on Facebook was interested in videos. I would say utilize the resources Canva offers to learn more about videos. But also, again, because I'm me, most of what I've learned about videos is just going in, clicking a template, and kind of like working backwards. Using the template to see like what you can do, and then seeing how it's controlled, and that sort of thing is how I've done video. But with their video, you can do the transitions. You can do text on the screen on top of your video. They just introduced one of their things was like beat sync for your audio to better sync up with the video. So like I said, I've used it a lot more recently because it's become a lot more robust in what you could do. Prior to that, it was just kind of fairly simple. Didn't have quite as much control over things. So I was using a different video editing platform. Darlene said, how do you set a branding color palette? Is that an enhanced feature? I think it probably is a paid feature as part of the brand hub. But if you do that, if I remember correctly, it's been a minute since I've done this, so forgive me, is you would just go in, let me go back to my graphic here. And if like I just liked the color of this box and I'm like, oh, I want to use that as part of kind of my branding, I want to use that color again, I can click into it. And now you're really challenging me here. And there is a way that you can do it. And I apologize, off the top of my head, I cannot remember how I set those. But I know that Canva would offer that. You might actually, now that I think about it, you might actually have to go through like the brand hub part to get to those, to set some of that stuff. It's been a hot minute since I've done it. But yes, I believe it is a paid feature because it's part of that brand hub. And then there was one other thing I wanted to show you outside of Canva, but hopefully that has given you guys a better idea of what you can use it for. Again, if you're anything like me, just go in and play around with it. Look at the templates. I usually start off with a template for a lot of things, and then by the time I'm done, it doesn't necessarily look much like the template, but it just provides a good place to start. It's a little less overwhelming and good for like inspiration, especially on those days where I'm like, I have no idea what I want to put here. But the other thing I wanted to show you guys is for colors, actually. I recently learned about, and maybe everyone already knew about this, and I'm just late to the game. But if you go to color.adobe.com, you can plug in any color. You can go to any color. So if I'm like, okay, I'm starting a brand or my agency, we want to do more social media, but we want to make sure it looks cohesive, use similar fonts, use similar colors. How do I make sure that we're doing that? If I'm like, okay, my main color for my agency is going to be this blue. So this one in the middle. Over here, you can see a list. So this is the Analogous. I never know if I'm saying that right. And it'll, give you all those colors. If you're like, okay, what would a monochromatic look like? You can click there. It's going to give you all the colors to help with more of a monochromatic scheme. The other one I really like is complementary. So again, if you're like the main color for our agency we want to be using on our posts is this blue, what are my complementary colors going to be that I could use for text or other graphics or icons, those kinds of things? This will give you those as well. So again, maybe I'm the only one that was late to the party, but I just recently discovered this and it's been really helpful. Just kind of finding colors that are complementary, are going to look good for when I am using those brand colors. So then I was able to go back in, set them as brand colors. And so they're always there, easy for me to access. I don't have to keep coming back to this site or write down the different codes for the color. Again, I'm not an art person, so I don't even know what these mean. But they are in here. You can do shades. You can do custom. You can save to a library if you have an Adobe login. But just kind of another resource to use because it is overwhelming when we're talking about like graphics and marketing and social media and what looks good and what doesn't look good and how do you do all the things. And I, again, like I said in the beginning, not necessarily my lane, but these kind of resources are what help me make it look like I kind of know what I'm doing. And so they're what I use. And that Canva has just been such a huge help when it comes to that. So tying back up, thanks guys for sticking with me. We went a little over, but again, I just like sharing this information and you guys have been a great audience and great questions. So if I go back into this presentation that I started with, as we wrap up, I just want to remind you, we do have an ECC Essentials Facebook page. Feel free to email me, halcyon@deniseamberly.org. But if you want to go and like that page, we would love for you to do that. But also I will put a post on there to just start a thread. If you have maybe some more specific questions or anything like that, or maybe a specific thing you would love to see an even deeper dive on, whether it's presentations, graphics, anything like that. That might be a good central place. And then you can also kind of see what other people are interested in. I'm a big fan of always like networking, reaching out and looking together too. So you can see what other people want to know more about. And that is on Facebook. We have our main Denise Amberly Foundation page, and then we have the ECC Essentials page. And last but not least, hopefully you've enjoyed this episode and hopefully you'll want to come back. The ECC Essentials, if you're not familiar, are something we started at the beginning of the year. They are every other Thursday. They're about 30 minutes normally. And they're just cover different topics, just, a good bite size, because then afterwards, this will be on recording on the platform, but it also goes on YouTube. And then while this episode may not be a great one to just listen to the audio of, as there's so much to the visual part of it, all of our episodes do get uploaded to SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. So for those episodes that are not so much about the visual aspect, if you have a commute, anything like that, they're perfect little fit for that. Next week, we have Amy Morgan, who's the founder for Center of Training. She has done multiple webinars with Justice Clearinghouse, if you're familiar with them. I've gotten to do a couple with her as well. Very much a subject matter expert when it comes to this topic. So she will be doing top 5 do's and don'ts for suicidal parties. I am going to put that registration link in the comments. So hopefully you guys will come back and join us for that. It's just another topic that's, really, really relevant to our centers and the work we're doing, especially mental health, just continues to be such a big topic. And she always delivers just some of the best information. And so I hope you guys will come back and join us for that. and there'll be the Q&A option as well, so you'll be able to ask her questions. But that link is in the chat. It'll also go on our social media leading up to that episode. We also have our webinar next week with Fred Miller from NCMEC, and he'll be talking about autism and telecommunicator, also a very relevant topic as it's Autism Awareness Month. And we do get those calls, that include individuals with autism that can kind of very much not make it more difficult necessarily, but we may have to take a few extra steps or think a little differently when we're handling those calls with individuals who have autism. So again, thank you for being here. I will start that thread on our ECC Essentials page, but also don't hesitate to reach out to me directly, and the recording will be sent out. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Thursday afternoon, and hopefully I will see you, some of you, as I continue on the road for conference season. So enjoy the rest of your week.